Australia has extended its travel bubble suspension for another 72 hours, and anyone travelling across the dish will be put in hotel quarantine. Despite that, the group tasked with forming a full trans-Tasman bubble believes it could be in place in 8 weeks. The Australia-New Zealand Leadership Forum has been working solidly for 10 months on an agreement to get international travel between the two countries off the ground, with two-way tourism trade worth more than $5 billion. Every time it seems the bubble is close, there's been setbacks, new cases, divided opinion, politics or nerves. The co-chair of the Leadership Forum, Anne Sherry, says any bubble needs to work on the basis there will be more COVID cases.
I think the idea that neither side of the Tasman is ever going to have a case when we've got, our citizens coming back from all over the world is fanciful. So the real question then is how do we manage the odd case that pops as these have?
Here's the thing, it was your Prime Minister who basically instantly closed the border to us with this latest community case. Was that the wrong decision, and have you been able to talk to him about it?
I think it probably comes from the health people rather than it being a political knee-jerk. I think the Prime Ministers need to keep talking to each other, and my understanding is they have been and they will continue. And we just need to find better mechanisms rather than close the border being the first thing we ever do, rather than being, the thing we do when we've got real reason to do it. So my strong preference, and I think it's true of all businesses, everyone who's trying to manage trans-Tasman, is that we're not in the on-again, off-again button switch, that we're on, we've got mechanisms that allow us to manage it. So I don't think knee-jerking is, whether it's health officials doing it or politicians, is going to serve any of us well in the long term. We've got to find a different way of managing.
So would you categorise that recent decision as knee-jerking?
Well, look, I think it felt as though there was uncertainty on our side, about what was really going on. And that's why I think we need to have better mechanisms, constant communication, all the stuff that just makes trust easier, rather than pressing the pause button until we really get a handle on what's going on.
So do you think that we should do away with this idea that we can have a total elimination strategy? Because it sounds like what you're talking about is working with a certain number of cases, so just accepting that we are going to have clusters and outbreaks and still allowing the border to be open?
Well, I'm not sure about clusters and outbreaks. I think it's about, because what we're talking about are managing individual cases or a couple of cases. And that's been true in Australia as well. I think earlier in the piece, it was more difficult, and there was exponential growth in cases in some parts of Australia. So, that was a much more difficult position. I think elimination in our own communities, is clearly a political objective everyone's set their mast to. So, they've raised their flag to that one. So there's no way that I'm probably going to be able to do anything about that. And
would you like to, though?
I think probably. No, look, I think most people in the community are happy that we are, when you look at the UK and other parts of the world, we're all happy that we're not in that position. And they rejected elimination as a strategy and have ended up in a complete mess. So that's not where we want to be. But we do, if we're going to let our citizens back in from other parts of the world, we're just going to have good systems for managing that. And whether that's hotel quarantine, whether it's greater testing of people coming back from overseas, we've just got to put better mechanisms in place for doing that to ensure that we don't have big outbreaks as a result of it. So I'm in favour of keeping the numbers low. People want to get on about their business, and if that requires us to have maybe small hotspot declarations rather than shutting complete countries out, then that's probably a better mechanism to manage it in the long term, I reckon.
So, Anne, you would be well aware of the New Zealand Prime Minister's comments about, seeming to indicate that it's increasingly difficult to navigate a country-to-country travel bubble. Is it more likely that we're going to have a state-by-state arrangement?
Look, ideally you would have country to country, but if we can't make it, then state to New Zealand is better than nothing. So, and if that's what we need to do to start, then let's do it that way. But I
when,
think ideally, well, hopefully first quarter this year.
What?
Hopefully, because we need to.
Anne, sorry.
End of March. End of March is what we're still hoping for.
Really? What gives you that level of confidence?
Because there's so much work going on between the health department, between Border Force. There's a lot of activity. I think I just think we've got to keep setting ourselves some deadlines to at least try and work to. Otherwise, it just drifts off into the never, never. And we've got, on both sides of the ditch, we've got huge tourism industries, huge numbers of jobs that are just falling away from us as we procrastinate. So we've got to try and get something in place that helps keep people healthy and safe, but also doesn't completely smash what's been such an important sector for all of us, and also all those other trans-Tasman businesses that haven't had people travelling that, are looking for ways of working that are sustainable and do keep their workforces healthy as well.
Where is the most resistance to a trans-Tasman bubble coming from?
It's a good question. I think it varies depending on the issue and the time. So, New Zealand, having Australians, having Kiwis come to Australia has been possible until a few days ago. So there's been that's been a bit one way, and I think so that's the option of having people fly between Australia and New Zealand both ways without quarantine, I think would be a really good start. We haven't really had that properly yet.
So is New Zealand the stick in the mud, Anne? Is New Zealand the stick in the mud here? Are we asking more of you than you are asking of us in this deal?
I think the challenge has been we haven't had coherence on the Australian side. So doing it nation to nation requires us as well to have all the states agreeing how it's going to be managed, and we haven't had that.
You have been working on this for about 10 months now, right?
Yep.
How many times have you had to adjust your deadline?
Probably once a month for 10 months. We've found something else we need to sort through to keep pushing ahead on this. So we've been at it constantly for 10 months.
And you've pretty much had to push your deadline back every month?
Yeah, we have. In some cases because we've found issues that we didn't have easy solutions or that we couldn't find easy solutions for. And in some cases, just because the politics of and the environment was public environment sometimes was such that there was no way we were going to be able to push it through.
And that was Anne Sherry there.